well, let's just watch a half hour of a person cutting a hole in a litter box. Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so very much for the handful of people, and truly like 5 people, who have been watching the channel. If you have seen some of my previous videos, you will recognize that I am back in the garage for another Kbatz craft, and this one is actually going to involve repurposing a litter box. Yes, it's still going to be a litter box, like I should say. I mean, I wouldn't want to, you know, repurpose a used litter box for anything else. I mean, even I have to draw the line somewhere. But this is actually a corner litter box that I just want to make a little more stylish. I bought this a few years ago, and I got this plain one because it's a corner shaped style, just to sort of go secluded out of the way. I was tempted to get a planter litter box. I should show a picture if I'm technologically able enough to get one up in the video. This litter box, I thought, can I make one of these plants? Faux plant litter boxes. So this is my litter box, which is around the same size as these terracotta faux types. And of course, this is going to get black spray paint, because let's be honest, it's me here. I mean, if I want this to blend into my decor, it's going to get some gloss black spray paint, right? Now, let me get out my bag of supplies that I've brought into the garage here. Surprise. This is actually what I got, because I was studying these planter pictures in detail, and they seem to have a molded kind of shape where a sort of basin comes into the top of the litter box, where there's sort of a tray that sits with some moss and such, a base for the plants. So I got this, which is actually a planter that you're meant to put a heavier pot in and be able to wheel it around. It's got little wheels underneath. And this was at the dollar store, which is no longer the dollar store. It's now $1.25. But as you can already see, I have traced this onto this. And it would look kind of obvious because of some of the bevel shaping and because of these little wheels. Yeah, it would look kind of silly if I just plunked this on top. It would be kind of obvious. So I want to cut a hole out and just recess this in the litter box. And because the litter box is so big, I'm not taking up too much space. Maybe, can you see? Maybe a couple inches of this upper area. So I want to recess that. And I did buy some more. I did have a partial can of gloss black, and I did get another. And I did get these that are just rust or primer, 2-time primer and paint coats in one, just because I'm using 2 different types of plastics together, and I want to make sure there's one whole cohesive look. So I'm usually, though, never necessarily without black spray paint. This is just some all-purpose silicone, what does it say? Fast drying for acrylic, latex, and silicone caulk plus for painting projects. I want to get this cut and caulked tonight, and then leave it go overnight, and then I can see how well this is, if this is the right proper thing, to get that sealed. And then once I'm sure that that is situated, then I can give my spray paint. And then it'll be time for the fun stuff. I did buy, whoa, avalanche, hold on, some foam blocks. This was $5. Because I was out of them actually, so I went and bought some more. And obviously I'm not going to use all this, but I needed some And then I actually, when I was at the craft store, I happened to see this one little piece that was clearance for $1. So these pieces, I mean, I expected to only take not just a corner, but maybe go lengthwise to kind of cut this in half to, and then just glue this down inside to get a little base for my plants. But that's really the last thing. I have a fake plant that was in the home when we bought it. It was just in this corner of a room in a nice vase, and I thought that it must have been a nice, fancy, expensive plant, but I didn't know what to do with it, so I just actually stuck it in the corner of my basement, and it's been there ever since. So I want to repurpose that, because it is actually the big kind of banana leaf type that I would need something substantial to go with this. What else is in here? Oh, stone. These were $4. It's just a jar of some stone. And I chose this mix because it had some red and some black stones in here. I didn't go with all black, because somehow I thought if I did black stones, if I painted the plant black and the base black, that it would kind of give away that it was fake. So I got this sort of more natural mix that does kind of fit in with my decor, just to make it look slightly more realistic. We'll see how that goes. This is my top of my litter box that needs to be covered. So obviously I'm going to lose the little handle, but I'm also going to lose this the charcoal kind of area. And so there's kind of a bit of a bevel area, and then an area that's more straight plastic that I need to cut around. Regular old utility knife is working. It's just a little time consuming because I almost feel like my blade is a little dull. I suspected this was probably going to be the most difficult part, cutting this off, but it is definitely doable. It's just a matter of how much strength I have in my arms, actually. I have found another type of utility knife in the toolbox, and this kind of does a little better. Just because it's a little bit larger, it just means that I can cut more space at a time. The previous videos when I was working in the garage, my mother saw and said, "Where did you learn to do all that stuff?" Oh, ye of little faith, Mom. When my mother sees this video, she's probably going to curse in Italian. Yay! Huzzah! I wasn't recording. Okay. This now is obviously still too big. I used this rim as sort of my guide to make that initial circle because I don't want to make it too big, obviously, that it would fall through. I just want to file and cut until I can wedge this in, because here is where I want the lip to sit on top of the caulk. Just enough to recess that down and then be able to decorate with this little base. So, just, now see, I don't want to wedge it in and crack something and then be completely bamboozled. Turning it upside down so I could use my bottom as a guide. I can see that it's just a couple of these corners on this beveled area that I need to file out. Okay, I've probably been at this for like a couple hours now. I just have to keep sort of shaving my hole to make it bigger because this plastic flexes and this plastic flexes. So I have to keep cutting around these corners basically, but it's getting there. It's time consuming. This doesn't have to be pretty. I file rough spots as I go. It's so funny. I thought it would be difficult to actually cut the hole open, and then it would drop in really easily. So I was worried about it being too big and then everything being ruined. But when I turn it upside down, you can see that it kind of fits. It's just they both kind of give. So I need to make a few more adjustments. Ooh. I think I have it. This is taking a while. My hands are kind of sore. Just from these finite kind of cuts and peels. Going around here, smoothing and going around and around and around. But this sits in at an even level. So I can get some caulk, finally. If I think about it too much, it might bug me that it's maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe, don't think it's a 1/2 inch off-centered, but the whole point of this kind of litter box planter disguise is that it's going to be turned slightly away so you don't see the litter box opening. So if I turn it at an angle where that little off-center doesn't matter, it's fine. It's fun. This was so much easier, or not easier said than done, because, you know, I thought about writing up an article for this, and I thought just a goofy video would just be more fun. But also just, you know, task 1, number 1 on the countdown. Cut a hole in the top of your litter box. Okay. I am just going to have to eyeball this line and squish my lip in, and fortunately, you know, caulk, you have time to set and white. Admittedly, I have no idea what I'm doing at this point because I know this is not exactly what caulk, for which caulk is used. This is a little different than, you know, some bathroom tile. Basically, you know, I want to try and seal this, make it look somehow a little uniform. It's just a matter of keeping the plastic in the shape that I want, keep pressing it down. I guess it's not a failure if I've learned what not to do. Well, this was, you know, $40-some, and I don't know, $10 or $12, $4 for the foam, $4 for the stones. So I don't know, $50, $55, I guess, is not that bad of a mistake compared to, what's a steal compared to the $75 for the expensive real planters. But, at the same instance, if I fail for $50, I could have just bought the expensive planter. Am I right? I mean, let's be honest. So there, if you can see, is my lovely inside kind of caulked into place. I had to, again, seal around those angles. I don't know if this is actually going to hold it in place. If I leave this overnight, I could come back tomorrow and see that it's all just dried up and separated. This says that it's meant for painted plastic. I thought about using Plasti Dip, and I went with caulk instead in the store. We'll see if this was the right or wrong method. I kind of wanted to do this in a weekend. I do think it can be done with the right materials, the right know-how. If you knew how to immediately kind of file and smooth and carve your hole properly and had the right adhesive material to do this, this would be something that could be done easily. This was more of an idea that I saw something, and now this has been a little bit of trial and error. Some of those, the terracotta, faux terracotta litter box planters had like a little bevel, almost like a vase sort of lip where everything sat. So I've kind of attempted to faux sculpt a little bit of this area. See, now from this triangular corner, actually it looks centered. So this will probably end up being my front. and the opening is there. So actually this was my back. So that actually works out well in the disguise aspect. So I'm going to smooth this out a little bit more and leave it set overnight. Well, overnight, I think it's like 2 o'clock in the morning right now. I have let this caulk now sit for almost a day. I had wanted to spray paint. This caulk was meant for paint jobs. It says you could spray paint in as little as 20 minutes. But I went over the caulk with just a damp towel, paper towel, cleaned up some of the other little spots, and just that little bit of damp helps smooth things out a little bit. But I let it set because we have had some rain, and then it was hot, and then there was thunderstorms. So and humidity and temperature is a factor, you know, when you're working with certain materials as well to consider. But it actually does not look bad. Sorry, it's difficult to see, I guess, with the little white glare. And my little weight there, and I set the hood on the base of the litter box just to make sure that, you know, it was set in the position that it was going to permanently be. Where some of this is off center, and maybe where this bevel comes out a little bit, and then here, how is there possibly glare on this thing? Here where it's a little more smooth, where you can see the edge and the round, but then here is nicer and smooth where that is a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, so kind of off. I really kind of feel like I can work with the plant, some of my plant leaves, to kind of drape. Once the plant is here, and once this is off in a corner, I really feel like you're not going to notice that kind of middle seam line or any of that kind of bevel design, because I think most people would just, the idea is that it will be a successful disguise, that people won't notice as a litter box. They'll just bypass it as a plant. I was kind of apprehensive of how things would work. I knew it was doable. I just did not know if I had the right supplies, and if I was going to end up spending more money going out to buy the correct supplies. So I feel like if I had to go out and buy more plants that were the large enough scale that I would need to make this look right, I mean, if it was like a little succulent, that would look silly. That would not make any sense. These are the lovely, this was $3 or 4. They're really meant to be cake stand type wedding tiers, but the candle fits perfectly in that spot. So these babies are going to get spray painted. Well, it is done. Of course, there needs to be some touch-ups. I did end up going outside, and instead of rain, there were a few nice wind gusts that came along and caused some paper and some grass to stick to certain areas. So ironically, the kind of sticky parts that needed to be touched up look a little worse than my top caulking, which I was worried about being unsightly and ugly, but the black really disguises that. I feel like through my camera view and the fluorescent lights overhead, I feel like is illuminating maybe some bad spots, but looking at it with my naked eye, I don't see bad spots at all. The black on black just really blends together. And I did actually do the inside of the topper in the litter box, all the underside and all the round, just on that illusion of maybe when you're looking through the opening, if you do happen to see the opening, that there is black on the other side. And because I was using the sort of rust paint primer, I just wanted to do a nice seal coat on that, seal coat on the inner caulk. And I was surprised how much paint I took, because I also did my goofy 4 little candlesticks as well. I had 2 cans of gloss black that were kind of half that I finished, plus a new can that I had bought that I didn't think I was going to use. And I opened up the next gloss black for some of these touch-ups. So, I don't know, a couple dollars each in the spray paint that I've always had, always now. I should upgrade and get more black spray paint. It's always something fascinating, wonderful to have on hand. I've written and done some articles and some other videos before about, you know, if you're looking to go for some kind of dark aesthetic, but maybe if you're a renter or, you know, you're a little fearful, take an accessory and spray paint it black. That's the best way to start. And I really love how this does not look like a litter box at all. It does not look like a litter box that was chopped up into something else, where I was worried about, you know, was the assembly going to work out. Now it looks like just something that was already a plastic pot, a plastic planter. And also, looking through my viewpoint here on the camera, there's a little bit of that glare when I was trying to film earlier on the light colored litter box, original gray color, where there was some glare where I couldn't quite point out what I was doing. But now that glare on the gloss black just creates a nice kind of mirror sheen, which again hides some flaws. So at quick glance in a corner with the plants next to go inside, I really feel like this disguise really works. I had some hesitancy about how it was going to come out, and it's so funny. I'm talking while you're looking at. We're watching paint dry together, people. This is a special moment. It is. This is the plant that we are going to reuse and repurpose. It was in the house when we got here, and I stuck it down here in the ugly side of the basement. I'm supposed to be getting dinner out of the freezer, but really quickly I wanted to show you in its original form. You probably would pay a lot for this kind of plant. I don't know, $30, $40. I do feel like the fern here in the back looks a little more plasticky, so I don't know that I'm going to use that, but I feel like I definitely want to use this kind of bamboo leaf. I think just this bamboo leaf, I think it's like a bamboo or elephant kind of leaf, just that kind of pouring over, I think will really hide a lot of the litter box. I don't know that I'm going to use these little stick things either. This little ugly fern thing went from being a plant I hate to a plant I hate slightly less, but that's okay. An empty candle jar and some of that foam from the pot. And if I don't like it, I mean, it was free, no love lost, so I can just rip it back out again, because it is kind of ugly. This, I feel like you know that it's fake. It just looks a little too plasticky for me, and that is usually why I paint. There's one of my Topiaries. That is usually why I do black leaves, because I figure if you know it's going to be fake, at least go dramatic and glamorous with it. I guess it's not so bad. I thought about putting in a pumpkin, but the pumpkin little vase that I have that I usually keep my potpourri in is a little too squat for the height of the plant. Again, I guess it's another thing of worrying about scale. I guess that might be too small of a little vase on the illusion if it were real. But at this point, I don't care. I've kind of stumbled into all these different little impromptu things with the candlesticks and this plant and that plant. And at this point, I kind of just want to be done. I also have the goofy staining project. I've been doing staining and letting stain dry and caulking and letting caulk dry, and then going back and spray painting and letting spray paint dry. So I've tried to maximize time doing multiple things at once, and it's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. I feel like everything is half finished, which is frustrating because I also feel like if I had done some of these things straight through, that these are weekend projects. So I like to film something usually short that, hey, anybody can, spray paint some spooky candlesticks and boom, you're done. So it feels weird to me to start and stop and start and stop and, real world going on as well. So, but then, you stumble along really unexpected things. I initially thought that I could do a write-up with this project. Steps 1, 2, 3, easy peasy. Cuts, paints, plants. And every step of the way, this has become just, there's been a tedious little obnoxious thing. First, it was a pain to cut, and the wind blowing all over when I was waiting to paint. And this stupid plant, I couldn't cut it here. I tried knives, I tried saws, I tried 3 different wire cutters, and it just would not go. And it was even a bitch to bend this thing. I had to sit on it to bend it all the way. And I'm already working with my corner pot, which actually does look kind of cool already. It's really blending in, that it's just some big black blob that you don't even notice that there is here a litter box opening on the other side. You can see that this is still, this goofy ass stupid end of this plant would make my plant off-centered as well. So it's one silly little thing after another that just is annoying about this project. That should be easy peasy weekend. It can be easy peasy weekend, but there's just annoying things. But I have the foam and my glue and my stones where I feel like I could kind of angle this a little bit, use this depth of a couple inches that I have, so that way it's not off-centered, but that I can elevate it a little bit, and then I can worry about having, some of my plants drape here and all my stoneworks. I had to stick that in there, and I had to shave some pieces and level some pieces up, and now I want to get some more hot glue of all this foam in place, and then I can worry about some of my nice strategic stone. I had a small little 3 block that I used, and I broke into that larger 4 block foam that I didn't expect to use. I didn't expect to need strategically building foam, and I didn't think I was going to use all my stone, but now I wonder if I'm going to use all my stone, and or I will probably have to supplement it with some moss. Okay, I'm doing a combination of moss and stone. At first I thought I could just do my stone in a sort of semi-random aesthetic and then fill in cracks with moss, but I'm worried I may not have enough stone to do one whole layer here, and the way I had to angle this up, I knew I wanted some moss around that stem. So, and in theory you would think that there would be moss and then stone, but I also don't want to layer the whole thing in moss and then add stone. So it's kind of a little bit of random back and forth. I sorted my stones by color, but then I want to sort of not have them in any kind of formal pattern, want them to just be natural, as if I just grabbed a hunk of stone and threw it into the pot. But of course it's a lot more time consuming than that. And I'm trying to work in sections here. I did a little more practice starting on the back, and then have strategically worked in different areas, so that way I'm not getting into some sort of rhythm or pattern. It's time consuming. Okay. I'd like to say that I didn't hot glue all the stones, that, oh, you could just actually toss some in and there they could sit, and, oh, if a couple spill, when I'm lifting the lid, big deal. But yeah, I need to go get some more glue sticks downstairs because I hot glued every single one of these stones.
So once I started, I just couldn't stop. So there was a bed of moss in some places. A couple places there's double stones. And, I used the stones to advantage also, sticking some up and letting some be flat. Using their own kind of unique natural dimensions. And then there were some stones that I thought were prettier, that I kind of wanted to be in the front. Because of that foam buildup with the plants, I do have a little bit more. It's not level. It's higher up in the back and it's a little low in the front. I may just put these last few stones up in the front to build that up a little bit. But now I'm also going to start strategically bending my leaves as well. And at first, I was a little worried that the plant was also a little off-center, but I kind of thought, nature doesn't grow perfectly centered in the pot in a nice straight direction, so that kind of almost helps. And there were a few places where the moss was sticking up, and there was a goofy random little stick that I just left sticking up, which, I'm going through such, finite artist sort of meticulousness about these stoneworks. And the whole point is that once the leaves are down, you're probably not going to see half the stonework anyway, but I'll know it's there. So, this was just the last little fun part, getting all these in place. And this part has been kind of fun, seeing it come together, seeing that it does look like how you would nicely, decoratively pot a plant. So I'm looking forward to putting this in a corner and getting some nice photos. The actual location of the litter box depends on where the temperamental cat kind of chooses. That is my hockey bag with a cushion from a recliner that we threw away and a cat on top. I would have thrown away the whole recliner, but the cat leaped up on the cushion and said, "Mine."